Hello, everyone. Today is 25th of January, 2023, and I'm continuing my series Daily Reality with Alex. And today is going to be a very interesting topics that I'm going to describe for all of you. And of course, some of the things I'm using a lot, some of the things I'm using not so much. There are things that I'm not using at all, but I'm going to speak today about weaponized reality and why we're living in a construct of reality where it is impossible to exist without being weaponized. And this is a very interesting topic, and I would like to just expand it for all of us that are peacemakers and that are really imagining and wishing and have such a strong wishful thinking that everything in its essence and in its perfection is very peaceful, and that we are living in a reality without conflict. And even if there is a conflict, it is not something that concerns us because we have embraced this peacefulness, and nothing outside of our own personal peace and joy and happiness and positiveness is able or possible to exist. Everything that exists for those of us that are constantly living in the positive type of mindset, and we are ignoring everything else to exist. We are those type of people that cannot understand why Alex now is speaking about weaponizing of reality, and why we are going to understand and why are we to embrace such type of reality. And of course, this is something that is not a thing that we are willing to accept. And let's start and see what is possible, and let's move directly into my screen sharing. And I'm going to go immediately to my friend ChatGPT, and I would like to show you how I'm thinking about today's topic, and then I'm going to tell you what exactly brought me into this direction. I asked first, give me 10 things about weaponized spirituality, and he's telling me that he don't understand my point. Then I asked him, give me 10 common spiritual weapons, and ChatGPT starts saying prayer, amulets, Bible, some rosary, which is in Catholicism, in Quran, Om, the Star of David, Mala, on different religions, different type of things and practices we as human beings are doing. For me as a Christian is point number 9, the cross. For those that are in India, the chakras and so on and so on. For me, it's more important to generalize and to understand why reality is created the way it is. And then you see 10 reasons why we use spiritual weapons. This is not me now. This is the artificial intelligence of all us, the human beings, that is telling us something. We are using spiritual weapon for protection against negative energy, evil forces, spiritual attacks. And of course, we can say these things doesn't exist. There is not such thing as positive or negative energy. There is only energy. We are the ones that are creating our own reality, and we are 100% and strongly beings that are thinking that peace is everywhere. There is no such type of evil forces, negative energy, spiritual attacks. What is this all about? I remember when I was 17 years old and I believed that God exists, and I decided and became a Christian. The first thing I heard about is that out there in the world, there is some type of a devil, some type of a evil force that is 100% going to start attacking me. Immediately when I became aware that spirituality or connection with God or whatever exists, immediately I was brought into a conflict. Then we are also to use spiritual weapons for healings. You see, meditation, physical feeling, emotional, spiritual alignments, and so on. We are to use the spiritual weapon for guidance. We are to use the spiritual weapon for connections with the divine. Using spiritual weapons can help us to strengthen one's connection with the divine. Does it mean that there is forces that are working against us in order to stay disconnected? If we are to use spiritual weapons in order to be guided, does it mean that there are forces that are out there that are constantly working towards us to be misguided? Does it mean that if we are to use spiritual weapons in order to experience healing and to be in good health, there are forces that are working consciously against us in order to destroy our health and so on? What about point number 5, manifestation? There are forces that are working constantly against us in order we not to be a manifestational type of beings, and we are to work spiritual weapons such as affirmations and visualizations. So everything you see that we have as human beings, we are to use as weapons, because constantly there are external forces that are working against everything that we are willing to express. There are spiritual weapons we are to use against overcoming obstacles. There are point number 7, spiritual weapons we are to use against somebody attacking our inner peace. There are spiritual weapons, point number 8, that are helping us to overcome addictions and negative habits that are constantly trying to enslave us. There are spiritual weapons we are to use because constantly a disempowerment is working against us, or we are to use weapons that are helping us in our spiritual growth, because spiritual distraction is all the time working against us. These are just 10 things that ChatGPT is giving to us about how are we to actually use and what type of different type of weapons we can do in order to start living our so-called peaceful, joyful, happy, wonderful experience. All this came to my thinking because we are living in a paradoxical world where peace and happiness and everything good that we want to experience and manifestation in our reality, there is a lot of weaponization that is coming together with it. As much as we are learning to use this type of weapons, the more we are creating for ourselves the possibility to experience all these beautiful things that we want. And we not only want, but we want them to become like 100% effortless and harmless experience for all of us to happen. It is wonderful to think in this way if it was only me and the reality, if it was only you and the reality. And for those of us that are believing, maybe in a beautiful, wonderful, loving God. So we are the three of us, the creation me, the beautiful creator, and the beautiful environment we call creation, and then we are able to peacefully exist in a bliss forever. But this is not how reality is. And I was wondering why, when I'm reading different type of Asian text, why weapons are so important, why skills and typical powers that these type of beings are having is so important. Who are we fighting against, and why there is a necessity in reality we to experience against, why there should be intentions that are constantly working against us. And I know a lot of us are now very easily following in the other trap where we're saying, where all of us are sometimes saying, well, that is 100% correct, Alex. I was 100% sure that it was never my fault, that there are a lot of things that are working against me, and that's why I don't have luck. That's why I'm not successful. I knew it. You just now proved the point. So I'm going to relax now. I'm going to give up because it is not up to me to do something more, because you see, I want to be a peaceful person. I want just to be a happy person. And the reality that you are speaking about is not allowing me, and there is even allowed in reality negative intentions, negative energies, or whatever we can think about to work against us on a daily basis, because in reality there are two flows or two directions that are appearing constantly, and the prevailing one is the distraction type of energy, where everything that is in the physical matter reality is just experiencing the decay processes. If we are not putting efforts, if we are not using intent toward growth-centric experiences, we are going to go into the decay processes. How and why the decay processes are fighting against the processes of growth in our experience, I cannot 100% explain and understand, but for sure, there are type of weapons and practices we are to do. But Alex, I thought that meditation, I thought to be mindful, I thought that just I'm willing to raise my consciousness, and I was just thinking that everything in this reality is about me. And yes, this is 100% true. It is about you, but there are two major attractional fields that are creating intentions towards our personal experience and reality, and we are the third part of generating in this reality that are able also to create with our own practices and experiences different type of flows and intentions independent of the other ones that exist and are constantly bombarding us. Some of them are supporting us, some of them are resisting us. And then, Alex, why are you working with these warrior labels and language? We are just willing to be very nice and beautiful souls, and we just want to experience the sweetness of existence. We want to be passive and peaceful beings. Why are we to use our warrior energy into this reality? What are we to be protected against? What are we to fight for? Why are we in a mode to be where we don't want to go? We just want to stay in a calm and peaceful environment where evil and energies, destructives, and different type of things are not existing. Why this is not possible? Because we are anyhow living into a creation experience, and creation and destruction cycles are working constantly, and they're working for and against each other, and we are the balancing part that through using and having the ability to use different types of weapons are able to choose side, but also are able to rise up and be aware and be really working with everything that we are towards becoming rulers of our own personal reality. But it's not possible to be rulers without being also warriors. There are 4 basic states of the human being like psychical energies that we are to learn to use. The warrior energy is one of it, but in order to learn to use, and all of us to learn to use the warrior energy, we are to understand and to accept that reality is created in such a way that conflict is part of it. And if we are to be in a mode of rulership, I'm not saying surviving, because we are able to thrive, we are able to conquer health issues, we are able to conquer obstacles issues, but not in a sense of just conquer, not in a sense of just transmuting, not in a sense of just changing the context of a scene, but not having a real effect and results. But I'm speaking it in a sense where we are constantly the one that are able 100% long-term to stick to generating and experiencing the reality that we have chosen to. That's why I was speaking about awareness and focus and attention. And I'm not just telling you, okay, Alex, now you want us to be aware and to be putting our minds and attention upon everything negative. We prefer just to ignore it, that it exists, and just to stay on the side of the positive and never tell me about anything else. It is beautiful to be done so, but only if we are constantly using the weapons that are there for us in order to be able to not only protect, but to pull our energies of positiveness forward into the existence. And now I'm just going to share you once again the screen in order to see this chat GTP, what are, according to the artificial intelligence that we have. I was asking about, give me then the 10 enemies against which we use spiritual weapons. And we are using spiritual weapons against negative energies and entities, temptations and sins. I know a lot of people are not using the same language, but you can always relabel temptations and sins, because what is sin? Sin is every experience which we are doing out of alignment and out of coherence, because it is not creating the states that we usually as an inner being are wanting to have. Then they are used against the fears and anxieties, against the addictions, against the illnesses, against the lack of purpose and direction, against the despairs and hopelessness, against obstacles and challenges, against anger and resentments, against ego and detachment and attachment. And I was asking more things to connect with for me with peace and so on, but it doesn't matter. And in the end, I just asked, okay, give me the 40 most used spiritual weapons in our reality. And then when you start looking in all this, you are going to be amazed that you are doing all of this or some of this, and you don't even know why you are doing them. And you think that these are just wonderful practices that are making all of us just to become more mindful, just to become more peaceful, just to become more high conscious, or whatever labels you want, or I want just to label them. But according to ChatGPT, and of course, according to my inner instinct, we are living in a weaponized reality. And once I am in a prayer mode, because I like a lot prayer, of course, in prayer, we use intention. In meditation, I'm currently, or myself, not doing it in the way that more people are practicing it, but this is my own personal experience and choice of freedom to do it in a different way. I don't use 100% affirmations in the way that more people are using them. I'm using a lot of visualization. I'm using the sacred text, and not only this type of text that are written here. I'm not using personally divination tools, because for Christians, first it is forbidden, and then Of course, I'm 100% sure that there is power that is in the crystals and all these things. And a lot of people are thinking that there is no energy, there is no power in the things, in the forms, but there is. But since I'm working with different type of powers and weapons, I'm just not using the same type of weapons that are cited here in number 6. Some people are using amulets, mantras, chants, yoga, mindfulness, fasting. I'm using it from time to time. Forgiveness practices, gratitude practices. A lot of us don't know that the gratitude journals and all this mindfulness about forgiveness and gratitude actually is a weapon. Journaling is a weapon. To walk in the nature is a weapon. And of course, some of us are using essential oils, healing, energy, Reiki, chakra, spirit animals. I don't know all of this because I'm not using them, but this is normal part of the way weapons are used. A lot of us are using different type of weapons. The most important thing is what type of weapons are effective and what type are not effective for each of us, because let's say, and just imagine that all of us have a so-called spiritual weapon that is so strong as an atomic bomb and can destroy everything in reality. Just can you imagine if all of us start using this type of strong, powerful weapon all the time against something or for something? It is still the same. We are going to destroy 100% the reality for ourselves and for all the others. And that's why this type of weapons are not allowed for all of us. But anyhow, we are constantly trying and working with different type of practices to actually being able to influence reality in the way we want it, and also to be protected in reality of some type of negative energies and fields and sources or whatever there is existing. Or even if we ignore it and say that it doesn't exist, for sure, if you monitor the raw reality as it is, you or I am going to spot that there is a conflict, and we are to decide which part of the conflict we are to be into long term. And then of course there is a very strong and powerful tool that those of us that know how to work and 100% constantly stay in balance, maybe 90 to 95% of the spiritual and enlightened or high conscious or whatever type of rising vibration type of people or believers or whatever you want to say are falling into a specific trap called to become biased about picking one side or another side, or to start wars against each other or wars for something specific. That's why maybe the most difficult thing about reality to be able to come into the state of understanding that there is nothing to defend and nothing to conquer. This is a very strong and powerful understanding, and it is very hard for me to long-term absorb it, though more and more I understand it that anyhow there is nothing specific that I want to conquer in reality. The only thing I'm working for in reality is myself, my rulership, the way I'm interacting, but I'm constantly aware that there are intents that are working and supporting me, and there are also different type of intents that are generally working against all of us, and this is part of all the decay processes. And also there are a lot of things that are helping us to be growing also, and then it is up to us which processes we are going to use in what time. And whenever there are some decaying things that are happening with us, it is still constantly and long-term able to be transmuted into something beautiful and wonderful. And that's why one of the biggest obstacles of understanding and comprehension for all of us is how, Alex, we are to be in conflict, how are we to be weaponized, and in the same time to be expected from us to love our enemies. And to know that all of these conflicts and weaponization of reality, where we have a lot of individualized consciousnesses, and still we are to declare in reality the long-term peace of wholeness, where all of us, all of the existence is long-term directed toward the oneness and wholeness, where everything is going to enter into its own specific orders. Yes, even the negative energies are going to be there in all the different type of experiences that we are having or are going to have forever. It is not possible duality in the way we are thinking and wanting and willing to disappear. We are never going to experience oneness if we are thinking and imagining in our own type of understanding and realms of existence that oneness is just to have joy, peace, love, and so on, without understanding and accepting everything that we call the shadow self, but of course, long-term with the development and coming of the reality towards its final directions, all of the dots that we now don't understand are going to fall and be in their own long-term place where they are to be. Where are we going to, and who are we long-term becoming is part of the processes that we are all understanding and are able to comprehend in order to interact and be functional in this reality, and to know how to exist in this weaponized reality that is now experienced, and again, to not be biased, to be able to even love and be in long-term understanding that even our enemies are long-term going to be part of the wholeness and the oneness. Yeah, it's a very difficult type of understanding because, of course, as a Christian type of person that is reading and understanding and using as a weaponization, and of course we can say, oh, okay, Alex, but by weaponizations, if you think about conditioning and that you are creating some additional vibes in you and so on and so on, and they're hyping you all this type of imaginary weapons, and if you start weaponizing your reality, it is going to become and create a total long-term disaster. But if we understand that peace, happiness, and joy are not possible to exist without the potentials and the probabilities that are hidden in all these weapons, if we are learning and understanding and start using those type of mindfulness and those type of experiences and all those type of weapons into our different type of practices that we are using, then and only then we are going to be able to know that all the beautiful things are just not happening by chance. And more we as human beings are understanding that there is a warrior energy also inside of us. And once we are able to balance this energy and to understand that long-term we are to using as a force of expression of our authentic essence in order to be able to direct our own personal intent and flow, and not to go or fight or resist or to do something forward and to support, but just to use rightfully and in its own place what this type of weaponization is all about. It is to empower us, it is to create growth in us, but we are to use all these tools in order to become more aware that yes, we are in a conflictual reality. We are in a sense weaponized spiritual beings. We know, but we are not resisting anything negative as energies and all these type of things. We don't need to, because once we understand how through our weapons we are more and more attracted and are connected to the source and the beings that are supporting our growth, then the so-called shadow part of reality is little by little just dissolving around us, and we don't need to place our energy there. And of course, yes, reality is very interesting. And if we go into reactional modes, it's very easy for us to be grabbed or to be attached and to start going into different loops that are long-term not going to create beautiful and wonderful things for us, but are going just to stop our development for some time. So thank you for watching. Enjoy your reality. Yes, reality is much more raw than what we perceive it to be, but more and more we are dissecting and understanding it more and more. The only thing that is happening with all of us, that we are entering our growth and maturation, and we know why we are doing things, and we know why we are not doing other things. So follow me. You can DM me and just wait for the last 10 days of February, where I'm going to announce when and how I'm going to give 10 subscriptions for my Ruling Reality Basics program, a one-month program for free for 10 of you. Bye-bye. Enjoy your reality, and thank you for watching today. Bye-bye.